Song though. This is from a solo record I did all over creation, and it's basically a true story. And I wrote this with a friend of mine I grew up with in Sheffield, Illinois, a very small town. We only had like 40 people in our class, but me and him were classmates since we were 4 years old. And he's become this noted Civil War historian and author. He's the head of the history department at the University of Ohio, Dr. Christopher Phillips. I wrote this with him. It's about, it's called Erin's Seed, and it's, I'll try to keep this as short as possible, but it'll help set up the song if you know a little bit about it. In the 1850s, of course, they had the terrible potato famine in Ireland, and of course, it was an incredibly depressed place already and occupied by the British, and it was just a real sad place in those days. So almost half the country immigrated to America, or Australia, mostly to America though. And they landed over here. Both settled in the north, but someone to North Carolina and to Georgia as well. When the Civil War broke out, of course, they were like, well, now what do we do? Like, what? But they volunteered in droves. In fact, there was a whole brigade of them called the Irish Brigade, out of New York. And in the early part of the war, they were always used as the shock troops. They were sent across those fields first, almost every time. Antietam, they were sent on 15 different charges across the wheat field. When they got to Fredericksburg, finally, of course, that was an even worse story. The Union generals had to have been absolute, either drunk out of their minds or just complete egomaniacs. They ordered their army to charge this entrenched federal line on Mary's Heights in Fredericksburg. It was a hill, and the Confederates had been there for 3 weeks digging in, and they were expert shots, and it was suicide really. But they sent the Irish across many times across that field, and this is sort of what happened during one of the lulls in between the charges. It's a true story. Erin's seed left their homes in Ireland's hills and dales, driven by the famine for America they sailed, a land of opportunity, far from England's stain, far from history's sorrow and nature's haunted rain. They started up new lives and worked and raised their families. They thought they'd never see again war and tyranny. Most settled in the Yankee North, but some went to the South. They thought they'd never see again hunger's gaping mouth. And Erin's seed was scattered on America's sweet soil, growing up and onward through awesome work and toil, growing up and onward through nature's haunted rain, trusting in the wisdom of God's omniscient way. In the spring of '61, a fragile peace was shattered. The North and South would not agree, and war was all that mattered. Erin's seed, those Celtic sons, heard that warbird's cry, and on each respective side, those Irish boys would die. On the heights of Fredericksburg, two armies spent their hate. There those men from Ireland would meet the strangest fate. field they stood against each other, singing songs of Ireland, then drew aim on each other. And Erin's seed had seeped into Virginia's rudder. No longer would it bloom and grow and foster that rebirth. Our Civil War did finish what their famine had begun. In the end they crossed themselves and went to meet the sun. In the end they crossed themselves and went to meet the sun.